Somewhere in a locked hangar in Texas, an $85 million fighter jet sits waiting for a country that no longer trusts the hand that built it. For 2 years, Wall Street told the world this story was already finished. Canada had signed $27 billion, 88 F-35s, case closed, deal done, America's newest guaranteed customer for the next 40 years. But 400 kilometers north of that hangar, inside a government building most people will never see, a quieter story was unfolding. One that never made it into the headlines Wall Street was reading because someone in Canada had noticed something. A single number buried in the fine print of that historic contract. A number that, in the right hands, at the right moment, could rewrite everything. This is the story of how that number became Canada's most powerful weapon. In January of 2023, Canada signed one of the largest military contracts in its history, $27 billion. 88 F-35 fighter jets from America's Lockheed Martin. Wall Street called it a triumph. 14 years of political paralysis, finally over. The story America once told ends right there. Canada, safely locked into the American war machine for the next 40 years, a guaranteed customer for a generation. But that is not where the story ends. That is only where it begins. Because buried inside that $27 billion contract was a single number almost nobody outside the defense world was watching. Only 16 of those 88 jets were legally locked in. The other 72, the aircraft that would define Canada's skies for a generation, were still just a promise, an option, a door quietly left open. And through that door, in the 2 years that followed, walked a rupture nobody in Canada saw coming. By March of 2025, the alliance Canada had trusted for 80 years, shared airspace, shared command, Canadian generals inside American control rooms, began to crack in public. America imposed tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, dairy, lumber, and then came something worse. The President of the United States began floating, openly, repeatedly, the idea that Canada should simply become the 51st state, not a trade dispute anymore, a challenge to Canada's very existence as a sovereign nation. Hours after being sworn in as Prime Minister on March 14, 2025, Mark Carney made his first move. He ordered his defense minister to determine, in his own words, whether the F-35 contract, as it stands, was still the best investment for Canada, or whether other options might better serve the country. The contract was not canceled, but the message was unmistakable. Canada was no longer going to simply accept the terms it had been handed. Here is what almost nobody explains about the F-35 itself. It is, by every technical measure, a magnificent machine. In 2021, Canada's own Air Force tested it against the field and ranked it the winner by a mile in stealth, in survivability, in raw lethality. That verdict was not wrong, but lethality was never the only question a sovereign nation has to ask. The deeper question is resilience. The F-35 does not simply belong to the country that buys it. It runs on American engines, American software, American-controlled digital networks. Canadian technicians cannot so much as touch certain components without an American export license. For decades, Canada accepted that arrangement because Canada trusted the hand holding the other end of the leash. By 2025, that hand belonged to an administration openly questioning Canada's borders. And a leash, once trusted, began to feel like a chokehold. This is the moment that produced Carney's mandate. Not hostility toward America, but a demand for Canadian self-reliance. And it was not a comfortable path. Bombardier's own CEO, Eric Martel, warned publicly that reviewing the F-35 deal was risky. Bombardier holds its own contracts with the American military, and retaliation was a real fear. Effectively, we could be targeted, Martel said. Even inside Canada, the strategy carried real cost. Then, in June 2025, Canada's independent watchdog revealed the F-35 program's price tag had already climbed at least 45% above the original estimate, with a looming pilot shortage threatening the program further. The ground for questioning the deal had only grown firmer. Layer 1 of Canada's counter-strategy: patience without paralysis. Carney did not cancel the F-35 outright. That would have left the country's skies exposed. with no fifth-generation deterrent against real global threats. Instead, Canada held its position, quietly making long lead payments on additional jets just to preserve its options, refusing to sign away the remaining 72 aircraft while the review dragged on, month after month, well past its original autumn 2025 deadline. Layer 2, Canada opened the door to Sweden. Saab, watching a decade of Canadian procurement turmoil, saw its opening and moved. Through 2025 and into 2026, Saab's executives were in Canada repeatedly, meeting officials, courting Bombardier, courting CAE, courting IMP Aerospace. By January 2026, Saab had placed a formal proposal on the table. 72 Gripen fighters and 6 globalized surveillance aircraft, tied to a promise of roughly 12,600 Canadian jobs. Unlike the American deal, Saab offered final assembly on Canadian soil alongside a genuine transfer of intellectual property. Layer 3, a concrete first move. In May 2026, Carney announced Canada was moving forward with Saab on the globalized surveillance program, passing over 2 American alternatives, from Boeing and L3 Harris entirely. Carney called it a decision that would secure Canada's north and build Canada's economy at the same time. It was proof, in contract form, that Canada's dependence on America was not the only option on the table. But, and this is the honest part of the story, the fight is not over. Canada's own internal defense review, completed later in 2025, reportedly found no clear military case for splitting the fighter order at all. NORAD's own commanding general told American senators the F-35 stealth capability isn't even essential for defending the continent. And as recently as this month, Canada's defense minister has confirmed the F-35 purchase is now tangled directly into broader trade negotiations with America. Negotiations still unresolved under the shadow of fresh 50% tariff threats on billions of dollars in Canadian goods. The review that was supposed to take 3 months has now run for well over a year. This is not a finished victory. It is a defining test still being fought in real time, with no guaranteed outcome. That is precisely what makes Canada's position a masterstroke rather than a gamble. Canada has not burned a single bridge. It has kept the F-35 alive as leverage, kept Sweden's Gripen alive as an alternative, and used the uncertainty itself as a bargaining chip in trade, talks it cannot otherwise control. This is not really about airplanes. For over 60 years, Canadian aerospace has carried the scar of the Avro Arrow, a program canceled in 1959, its blueprints shredded, its engineers scattered to America and Britain. Canada learned the hard way what it costs to abandon your own talent. The Saab partnership, if it proceeds, offers something the original F-35 deal never did: an invitation for Canadian engineers to help shape Sweden's future combat aircraft program. A seat at the table, not a place in line. Contrast that with America's approach throughout this entire saga. Tariffs as leverage, sovereignty questioned in public remarks, a guaranteed customer treated like a captive market that shouldn't dare ask for better terms. Chaos and pressure on one side, calculated, patient ambiguity on the other, refusing to be rushed into a decision on someone else's timeline. The ripple effects reach beyond Canada's borders. Every middle power watching, every nation that has ever depended on America for its own defense, is taking notes on what it looks like to hold your ground without breaking the relationship entirely. Canada did not need to burn the alliance down. It needed only to prove, through 15 months of deliberate, unresolved review, that the alliance was no longer the only option in the room. And that may be the real lesson still unfolding. Power in this century does not belong only to the nation with the most advanced weapon. It belongs to the nation willing to sit inside the discomfort of an unresolved decision, refusing to be cornered by either its adversary or the clock. Canada has not walked away from America. Canada has simply stopped waiting for permission, and the world is still watching to see exactly where that patience leads. What do you think about all this? Tell us in the comments below. See you in the next one.